piece of brain tissue, the size of a grain of sand, contains 100,000 neurons, 1 billion synapses. Now, just to put that into perspective, this means that there are more connections in a piece of brain tissue the size of a grain of sand than there are people living in the entire European continent. If that sounds impressive, it's because it is. Our brain totals 80 billion neurons, 100 trillion connections. It's a wonder of evolution. It's actually the most advanced biological structure in the known universe. And yet, what I'm going to talk about today is how that magnificent brain of ours is actually working against us. Now, we can do all kinds of stuff with our brain, right? We can do calculus, and you know what, let's do this together. First an easy one, 2 times 2 is? 4. Right, easy, good. Next one is slightly more difficult, but still pretty easy. We're talking about 20 times 35, that is? 700. Yes, good. I won't insult your brain anymore. The next one, please don't cheat, don't use your smartphone for this one. How much is 20,480 times 3,906,250? I've got plenty of time. Okay, let's stop this right here. Who is actually doing the math? Who is actually trying to work this out? Please raise your hand and be honest. Not many, I see. Well, just a couple. Well, that's actually normal. You see, all the others, all of you, you're probably thinking right now, do I really need this information? Let the others do the work. I'm going to sit this one out, right? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is because our brain is lazy. Yes, lazy. Now let's have a look beneath the surface here to see what's going on. So why is that? Why aren't we readily jumping into higher gear? Why aren't we solving this kind of equation with a smile? Well, that has everything to do with our limited resources and energy efficiency. 50,000 years ago, we had to go for days without food. And food wasn't readily available, you know. So at one point, if we would encounter hungry bears or a pack of wolves, well, we better have some energy left to be able to run away and maybe try to climb in a tree or fight them off. Now, just to get an idea here, by show of hands, how many of you, in the last 20 years or so, how many of you have had to fight off packs of wolves or hungry bears? You know? And how many of you are living more than 15 minutes away or 15 minutes drive away from their local supermarket? Now, how many of you don't have a fridge at home where they can store food? Not many, right? So, you see, that's the thing. Our brain, well, it is a wonder of evolution, but it's running on some outdated software. And nowadays, well, it's becoming pretty useless. Well, if we would encounter this type of beautiful bear here, that would activate our limbic amygdala. Our limbic amygdala is a center for fear and aggression in our brain. The limbic amygdala is also responsible for a fight and flight response. It's basically our survival instinct that is turned on there. Now, when our limbic amygdala is activated, it automatically shuts off our prefrontal cortex, which is basically the smartest part of our brain. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for things like long-term planning, problem solving, impulse control. And, well, when that part shuts down, it makes us pretty stupid. Now, again, 50,000 years ago, that made total sense. I mean, you meet this bear or hungry pack of wolves, you better jump into survival mode and try to live another day, right? Don't need to overthink things. Now, over time, as we got rid of the hungry bears and wolves, the limbic amygdala became increasingly useless. But the limbic amygdala, you see, the limbic amygdala is kind of a jerk. It reinvented itself, it repurposed itself. And so it invented stress. Yes, stress. So instead of being this ultimate tool of survival, where we shut down our prefrontal cortex, the smartest part of our brain, and we become this primitive, aggressive beast to live another day, we still shut down the smartest part of our brain. We still become pretty primitive and stupid. But now, we do it all the time, for the slightest of reasons. You see, I see myself as a standard, normal person. I'm a gentle soul, you know. I'm considerate with other people. I like to help out whenever I can. So the other day I was driving my car, minding my own business. I was minding my own business, and this one goes too fast. I was minding my own business, and suddenly out of nowhere there's this car that came out of nowhere and cut me off. And my God, the words that came out of my mouth at that moment, I'm actually not allowed to repeat them. They made me sign some papers before coming up here. But I can assure you that those words are usually not associated with a gentle soul, the way I described myself a moment ago. And yes, road rage is a well-established phenomenon. Based on numbers from the American Automobile Association, every year, on average, we have 1,800 people who get injured because of road rage. 30 people a year even get murdered. Murdered because of road rage. And that is typical limbic amygdala stuff, you know. I told you it was kind of a jerk. It makes you do things, stupid things, primitive things. And then you later regret it, and you feel bad or ashamed about it. So next time you do something stupid, you can always try to blame it on your limbic amygdala. But our stress response is actually doing more than just that. You see, our stress response gets activated when we're facing a perceived threat. I didn't say when we're facing a threat. I said a perceived threat. So that means that most of the time, our stress response gets activated for no reason at all, because there was no actual threat. For example, you are driving your car and you get stuck in a traffic jam. You think you're going to be late for work, and then nothing. You're on time. Or your phone rings, it's your boss. You go like, oh my God, there's a problem now. So you answer your phone, nothing, just a routine call. And we do this all the time. We are masters at worrying. But funny part here is that we as human beings, we are the only animals in the animal kingdom capable of worrying about something that will never happen. If you ask me, that's a totally useless skill to have. And this capacity to worry can spill over into chronic stress. Now, chronic stress is by far the #1 enemy of our brain. You see, when our stress response lasts for too long, we start releasing cortisol. And cortisol kills brain cells. I'm not talking metaphorically here. It physically kills them. So, why? Why is that? You have to understand the situation, right? You're in the middle of this problem. It doesn't get solved. It lasts for days, weeks, and months on end. And then your brain goes like, you know what could help us out here? Let's kill off some brain cells. We've got plenty of those anyway. Let's start a self-destruct mode. Now, lucky enough, we also create new brain cells. We create new connections. We strengthen existing ones. These are the wonders of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the biological process which underpins all learning. The first rule of neuroplasticity is we become better at what we repeat and focus on. So let me repeat this so you can focus on it. We become better at what we repeat and focus on. So what's wrong with that? I mean, creating new brain cells, creating new connections, strengthening existing ones, it has to be a good thing, right? Well, it depends. You see, our brain does not have a moral compass. It doesn't care what we become better at. So when we repeat a set activity and become better at it, that is great when it's something useful, like our job, for example, or something aesthetic, like playing a music instrument. But we also become better at those other things. Things like worrying, ruminating, criticizing ourselves, criticizing others, gossiping, procrastination, manipulation, things like lying, cheating, stealing, deceiving, etc. The list is almost endless. So, no moral compass, you see. Our brain doesn't care if we become these total narcissistic, egotistic psychopaths, or sociopaths for that matter. It doesn't care. It just makes sure we become really good at it. Now, becoming really good at something and enjoying it a little too much can be problematic as well. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter which conveys messages in our brain and is linked to pleasure and anticipation. Every time we experience something pleasurable, we release a certain amount of dopamine in our brain. Again, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is with how dopamine functions. You see, when we experience something pleasurable for the first time, we release a certain amount of dopamine. The next time we experience that exact same thing, we release a little bit less of dopamine. And the time after that, even less and less and less. If we repeat this activity enough times over a limited period of time, the activity at hand will turn out to become totally boring even. But there's a way around that. There's a way to solve this. So if a certain activity, a certain experience gives us a certain amount of dopamine, and if each time we get less dopamine, we can still get the same amount of dopamine if we get more of the experience, and more, and more, and each time more. Do you see how this is problematic? Do you see how this can easily get out of hand? How, because of this, dopamine is the root of all addictions. And again, well, you see, pleasure is not the problem, actually. Because we could easily decide to not to go for the extra stimulus each time. The problem is with the anticipation. It is the anticipation which is the real villain in the story. It's the anticipation that causes the craving, that little voice in your head. You know the voice that goes like, come on, Gregory. You know you want it. You know you like it. Oh, come on, just this time. It feels so good. Ouch. Nobody needs to know. It's not what it is. And that is why it is so hard to stop an addiction, you see. And again, why? Why did evolution give us the capacity to become a junkie? Why is it embedded in us that we can become chain smokers, heroin addicts, food junkies, gamblers who play away everything they have? Now, there are other neurochemicals that work like a double-edged sword. Oxytocin is also called the love hormone, the trust hormone. Can't go wrong with that one. You can. So the way oxytocin works is that women, when they give birth, they release oxytocin. When the mother breastfeeds her newborn child, both the mother and child will release oxytocin. We all release oxytocin when we spend time together, when we have a good conversation together, when we make love together, when we even singing together would have us release oxytocin. It strengthens the bond between us. But it only works with the people we care about, the people we see as our own, the people we identify with. For all the others, Actually, it does the exact opposite. It separates, it divides. So, oxytocin, because of this, is the driving force behind the us versus them mechanism. And that's how you create rivalries between groups. From your local sports club to your favorite football club. From the clothes we're wearing to the smartphone we're using or the laptop we're using. From the cars we drive and, well, actually, it can get worse. From our nationality, our religion, the color of our skin, or even our gender. Now, in a wicked twist of fate, nature, evolution, has decided to merge what is best and worst in us. Our capacity to love, trust, and bond with the people we care about is intimately interwoven with our capacity to separate, divide, and yes, even hate. And suddenly this thought became way less fun than you thought it would be. Now, our brain works against us our whole life, actually. It creates all these pitfalls. And even at the end of our life, it didn't give us a break. Cognitive decline. Both my grandmothers faded away with dementia. Actually, the worst day of my life was the day that my grandmother asked me to tell her the truth, no matter what. And so I did, I promised her. And then she asked me where my grandfather was. Now, my grandfather, her husband, had died a couple of years earlier. And, I mean, she was there. She had been to church. She was actually sitting in the front row. There was no way she didn't remember. There was no way she didn't know. And yet she was asking me that day where my grandfather was. And I had to bring to her, I was the one who had to tell her that her husband, the love of her life, was gone. Now don't get me wrong, dementia, Alzheimer's, those are diseases, that's not a normal development for our brain. And, well, in the Western world, if you reach average life expectancy, which is at about 82 years of age, we have a risk of 1 in 6 to develop dementia. If you reach the blessed age of 90 years old, your risk increases to 1 in 3. Now these numbers are going up fast, really fast. There was this study earlier this year from the University of Washington predicting that the amount of dementia cases in the world would triple by the year 2050. Triple. So if you define what is normal as what is predominant, what is most likely to be, by 2050, dementia will be normal. I will be 76 in 2050. How old will you be? And maybe more importantly, how will your brain be? Our brain is the most advanced biological structure in the known universe. It is a wonder of evolution. But it comes with vulnerabilities and contradictions. It's a work in progress. It needs constant care and attention. What's wrong with our brain? Well, it's lazy. It runs on outdated programs. It makes you do stupid things you later regret. It has self-destructive tendencies. It has no moral compass, and it tricks us into addictions. And then at the end, it's not even giving us a happy end. Now, before you start considering a lobotomy, think about this as well. Our brain is also responsible for all the other things, the good stuff, the epic stuff. And when you know how to activate the smartest part of your brain, and when you know how to avoid the pitfalls in your brain, that's when you can live your life to its fullest. Oh, and by the way, this one, 2,480 times 3,906,250, the answer to that is 80 billion, as in 80 billion neurons in that magnificent brain of ours. Thank you.